Welcome to the Jerome Bee Farm. It's Friday, October 13th, 2017. Today's Oklahoma State homecoming. So I'm wearing my OSU hat and my orange. So hopefully we can soundly whip Baylor tomorrow. So I got a couple things I got to do today in the bee farm. So our fall flow is pretty much done. At least I think it is. The bees are super defensive and they're robbing from each other. If I open a hive, it's not long at all until all the bees are attacking, trying to get all the honey out of it. And I'll have to put a robber screen on that hive. I'll show you one of those here in a minute that keeps the robber bees out and the home bees in. The home bees, is that a term? And also got this, the final saga of the tiny swarm, the last episode of the series in this year. That small vertical hive right there, I'm going to combine that down into a single deep 10 frame. And I've got all the equipment here to do that. So I'm going to get started with that. One other thing, because it's been so dry this year, I think that's impacted the fall flow, so there's not a lot of honey in these hives. In fact, one of them, it's one over here that's got that robber screen on it. It's a double deep, and I expected to pull honey off of that. I went through it this week, about 4 or 5 days ago. There was not any honey or nectar in that thing whatsoever. So yesterday I put on the 2nd gallon of nectar, or sugar syrup, which will be turned into nectar and honey for them to live off this winter. But that thing was dry and they would have starved to death, you know, in no time at all. They wouldn't even have made it into the winter, let alone through the winter. So I checked many of my hives that same day, and a lot of them had very little honey in them. So I was really surprised at that. I bought about 150 pounds of sugar in the last 2 weeks, and have been making 2-to-1 sugar syrup, putting on all these hives. And they're storing it away pretty quick. I'm thinking I only need about 100 more pounds to get me into the winter. And I will also put some sugar cakes on top of some of these hives. But right now I'm going to get started on the tiny swarm, get that into a box, and I'll show you doing that real quick. We'll check and make sure the tiny swarm queen is in there and doing okay. And then after that I'm going to pull honey off. So I don't see any sense in leaving honey on if they're not adding to it, and I don't think they are. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my honey off. And one reason I'm going to do that is, another reason is I can feed external out here in the open with a mass feeding for all the hives in 5-gallon buckets, and that's a lot easier. Right now I have to put my feeders inside of inside the hive, inside a box. So these hives that do have honey I'm going to harvest can't get to it, because I don't want to sell or give people honey that has sugar water in it, because that's not honey. That's not cool, and I wouldn't do that. So I make sure, and I'm real careful to keep those bees from robbing and keep them out. So there's no sugar water in any of my honey. So if there's sugar water honey, it stays in those deep boxes for the bees to live off during the winter. So with that, I'm going to get started on the tiny swarm. Okay, here's the front entrance on the hive I call Tiny Swarm. I keep them all numbered too. I got 23 hives, I believe. So naming them's a lot funner than saying 18. Okay, here we go. I'm going to use probably a good amount of smoke, keep them calm, help keep robber bees away a little bit, which is probably impossible. I'm going to go ahead and smoke the entrance here. I had to put some duct tape around the back here because robber bees were getting through the crack in here feeding on this sugar water. So again, this is the 2-to-1 sugar water. You want to see a busy hive, you'll see the one right behind me here. Looks like they're all coming out doing some orientation flights. Quite a few bees in that hive. That's my strongest hive right there. That's where I got most of my honey this summer. Start working on this one some more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it over, and then I'm going to slide that big hive right next to it. Stuck. It's a lot heavier than it used to be. It's a good thing. So I'll reuse these, I'll put them into the new hive. These are called beetle blasters. See how the bees are on there? They're after these beetles that are inside here. So little black dots are hive beetles. Hive beetles will ruin your hive too, just like a varroa mite, except they do it in a different way, but they can take over your hive if it's not strong. Okay, so I'm putting these 10 frames in here. I want the frames that have the most bees on them in the center, and then the ones with the most honey next to that, and then the blank ones on the edges. So this one will be a blank, it'll go on the outside. nothing on it. Actually, I thought it was going to be blank, but what's happened is when I was reducing some of my bigger hives, I took the comb out of those and took the blanks out of all these others. So I got some comb in here for these bees that came from another hive. Last video you saw, these 4 frames were blank. So I see a lot of bees over here. The queen may have moved up to the top. So they're actually storing nectar in here for the sugar syrup, which is a good thing. So that one I put down there is empty. This is the center one that was original. It did have some comb on it. It wasn't original. But this is the one that had a lot of drone brood. All those drones should be hatched out now. This is heavy, so it tells me there's a lot of nectar in it. Yeah, they're even capping it off. That's about 80% full. This side is about half full. So I'm going to put it here next to this one, just like it was. So this one's got a lot of nectar, a lot of nectar. So I'm going to put it out to the outside, anticipating I'm going to put bees in here, the brood part that has the larva, the capped brood. So this has a little bit of nectar right here, and this side's all empty. And there's hive beetles crawling all over this. I might put a Swiffer pad across this later, help with control those beetles, which I got one right here. Put this box out in front so the bees that are on it will crawl up it and go into their new home. Oh my gosh. Man, did you see all those beetles? They had gotten underneath this. The bees had them all corralled underneath there. I bet there were 30 or 40. And I smashed about 20 of them. These little black dots. Got to keep an eye on those things. Totally blank frame, so it will go on the outside. I'll put it on the north side where it gets the coldest. Here's honey. Here's some brood, capped brood, and I know from before the one next to this is capped brood as well, so I'm gonna put it right there. This next one ought to go right next to it. The queen will probably be on here. Capped brood. Well, I don't see the queen. This is where she's been hanging out. If I don't see the queen, that's okay. I mean, naturally I'd like to see the queen. So this is all pollen right in here. So that's 9 frames. The 10th one is over here on the side. Smash as many of these beetles as I can. Now I'm going to look in here for the queen. I don't see her. So I'm going to put this right on here. And I'm going to smoke it so those bees go down into the hive. I'm going to take these and shake them down in there. I'm going to move this hive over to the original spot where the little one was at. Kind of center it up. That's basically it. Get these frames all tight together. If you don't, they fill them full of propolis between them. Then you can't get them apart. It starts taking up too much space. I scoot all my frames to the front so the beetles can't hide up there. Beetle traps in. I'll put this Swiffer pad in here. Those caught beetles are actually alive. Okay. Inner cover. And the telescoping cover. There's a few bees still on this. I'm just gonna get them off of there. Okay. See them coming and going now, just like nothing ever happened. The bees that are out in the field will come back to this exact same location. and they'll go right in there. No big deal. So I am going to have to get another hive body and feed them still, because right now there's no way for me to feed them unless I put an entrance feeder on them, and then that would just create a big robbing frenzy. So they're good for now. That's the end of this video. These bees need fed probably, I'd say, close to a gallon, and they will have this hive full with enough stores to get them through winter. And then I'll check it throughout the winter when we have days that are warm, around 50 or 60 degrees, peek in there. And I always have an option of putting sugar blocks on top of it, like solid sugar, and they can eat that. So thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you on the next one.